Hello, team. Welcome to another session. We're going to talk about the tournament rule January update. Some people might know what the actual stuff has been changed, and I would put something on the screen right now about what exactly is changed, and my thumbnail will also indicate what is actually being changed. But let's just jump into it. So going from the list down, we'll start from 406.1.f. So that's been changed. So where right here for competition run using best of one format instead of a best of three format, the head judge may opt to use the altered initial setup process listed below to closer to mirror the best of three experience. So each player separate their champion legend and place them in the legend zone. And then each player randomly select one of their three battlefields and place it into the battlefield zones. Players used to play first rule listed below determines the designated player, and then we'll take a peek after. But for the player decide who goes first. The designated player choose if would like to go first and second, or it's the first or last in this particular case. The players then have an opportunity to sideboard as if they were in between games of best of three match. Right after sideboarding is complete, each player separate their chosen champion and place it in the champion zone. Player performs shuffling step again and proceeds to see our setup process. So this is important because again, now you can sideboard in the best of one, making certain decks, making best of one a lot more fair and less RNG. And honestly, I think this is great on a casual level for just locals, right? For the interest of time. But yeah, I think this is almost a great way to simulate BO3 in a BO1 scenario. Next on the list we have 407.2.8. So at high OPL during playoff matches that occur following the end of Swiss round, the higher ranked player from the Swiss round is automatically designated the player for the first game of the each match. So again, giving people that has better tiebreakers a better chance when it comes to um, the designated player. So less RNG, which is pretty good in a competitive setting. Now we're moving on. The next change that has been added as 4084. Single elimination matches use untimed rounds, so players can play their game to a natural conclusion. In the event that single elimination rounds must use a timer, the following altered end of the match procedure can be used to determine the winner if time runs out. So we got when time is reached before winner is determined. If player are in between games, if player has more games won in the match, they won the match, right? Which is great. If game wins are a tie, proceed to for the 4D portion. B, when time is reached before winner is determined, if player are in the middle of the game, the player whose turn finishes their turn. After the player's turn is complete, 3 additional turns are played at the conclusion of those additional turns. Player has more points of the current game, they win that game. Then if the player has more game win, they win the matches. If the game score is tied, then proceed to 4D. If the point score of the current game is tied, but player has more game win than in a match, that player wins, right? Pretty normal. If player point score of the current game is tied, and the game score of the match is tied, players continue to play until the next point is scored, which is pretty fair. The player who scores that point wins the match. This does not remove the normal scoring restriction if the points is the final point. Okay, and then 4D. If game score is tied and new game needs to be started, a player starts a new game and act through time immediately runs out. beginning the process of 40848, except for with 5 additional turn following the first player's turn before moving into a sudden death scoring describing C3 if the point score is tied at the end of those turns. So again, I think it's less incentive to slow play with these additional clarification. Big fan of that part. And then let's move on to tiebreakers. In the course of determining standing, the scorekeeper might need to distinguish between two player with equal match record. In these cases, the following tiebreakers should be applied in order: player with highest opponent mean average match win percentage, then the player with higher game win percentage, then with the player with higher opponent mean game win percentage. If after all tiebreakers applied, two players are still of equal standing in the competition, the scorekeeper should use random method to break the tie. Not the biggest fan, but I think we shouldn't get to 409.3 ever. So yeah, and then the elephant in the room: card languages. Players may include official Riftbound count of any languages in their deck during the deck building of the gameplay. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I just picked up 3 Chinese Kaisas and Chinese Time Warp, so yeah, pretty important. A player may call judge anytime to get a watcher wording for any card in the language of their preference. Pretty good. Oh, pretty good. The game's getting cheaper. Perfect. Not a pretty big fan. Moving on to 506, which is the next change on the list. Triggered ability. Accountable player. The player responsible for putting a trigger ability on the chain as defined by the core rule, CR 37.5 trigger ability. And then we have the 1A, the accountable player for a trigger scored from battlefield depends on control of the battlefield, and it's not automatically the player who brought the battlefield to the game. Okay, perfect. And then again, players not required to notify the player of triggered ability when they're not the accountable player, but may if they wish. Right? It's fine. A low OPL, players not required to notify other player of trigger ability when they're not the accountable player, but it is encouraged for sportsmanship and learning. The accountable player must acknowledge their trigger by the time they would have a observable impact on the game. If they do not, they are forgotten. Right? The trigger is considered forgotten once the point of observable impact has been reached and the new game action is taken without accountable player acknowledging the trigger. Player ruled to be abusing this rule intentionally and forget mandatory trigger that their accountable player will be penalized. So let's not try to do anything funny here for the intentionally forgetting must trigger rule. And then for trigger that occur at the start of each player's beginning phase, the accountable player has the full duration of the term in which the trigger occurred to acknowledge the trigger before it is considered forgotten. Regardless of its observable impact. Example, Obelisk of Power at the Arena of Greatest. Again, we don't want that's those things are stupid. I'm glad they put this in. Example of observable impact: the trigger would change a point total. Yeah. Trigger would change the room total. Yeah. Trigger would add buff to token. Yep. Trigger would impact combat other game procedure, such as, when you play a spell, give me +1 might, our favorite Raven Boon student. Does not have an immediate observable impact, right? Trigger would cause player to draw or discard. Traveling Merchant. Trigger would cause game objective. Misfortune Captain, and then triggers that would cause unit to move. A player asks for public information that would be impact to trigger for more information on public information. And trigger ability that was forgotten never goes on the chain. A trigger ability was forgotten and still considered have triggered for the purpose of optional first time or similar restrict trigger. Okay. more clear cut. Glad that went through. And then next one, 601.1.C.4 right here. Player may change their chosen champion to one from their side deck or main deck that matches a legend whenever sideboard would be allowed. Perfect. Right? I think I actually don't know if this was in the rule before, but I think a lot of people just play it like that. Yeah, perfect. 602 limited. Legality. Limited competition is one where a product need for play is provided during the competition. Modified tiers or seal play format. Again, without going to too much detail, but this is the limited format. Abnormal product building from unlimited pool, whatnot. I think this is less relevant, but again, pre-review is coming up, so in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and skip this, and then the final two we got 703.4.B.3. 2 is 704. Sorry, 703. 703 dot B dot 3. Yes. So if air cop, so this is what happens when the chosen champion is shuffled into is shuffled into main deck. If the air is caught by a player other than the airing player after opening hands have been drawn, the penalty is upgraded to a game loss. Yikes. That's pretty big. And then we have again at a casual or competitive OPO, if the air is a player forgetting to move their chosen champion from the main deck to the chosen champion, etc., the judge may downgrade the penalty to a warning and restore the game save possible, regardless of who called the air. Player may request judge to check an opponent's deck legality afterwards, which is fine. And then 703.4B4. If restoring the deck is to a correct state is not easily possible, the penalty upgrade to a game loss. When applying a remedy for a missing chosen champion is applicable if it is occurs at any points after opponent hands has been drawn and no copies of chosen champion are available in the main deck to move to the chosen champion zone. To restore the game state, the penalty may downgrade to a warning and gameplay can continue without airing player having a chosen champion zone. So if the cards required to correct the deck cannot be acquired in the timely manner, the head judge can issue a proxy. So yeah, pretty standard stuff. But yeah, that's it for all the changes. Again, I think the most important part are the new BO1 rule and the Chinese cards. And hopefully, everybody can play this game at a budget level. But thank you for turning in and have yourself a good day.